we are resuming our work and discussing dual education, continuing with the various viewpoints on this topic. In the particular case, we are going to hear the viewpoint of the authorities and the businesses. I'm going now to invite the participants, Mr. Krasimir Vochev, Minister of Education and Science. I'm really happy to see you here. Mr. Galin Gospodinov, Chairman of the Board of the Branch Chamber of Wood Processing and Furniture. Mr. Georgi Atanasov, Manager of Fasto Production. Mr. Marcel van der Hoek, Country Managing Director, ABB Bulgaria. And Mr. Zhelyas Enev, Head of the Economic Policy Directorate at the Ministry of Economy. You already know that it will take some time for the equipment to be ready. Mr. Minister, I'm really happy to see you here. Maybe we shouldn't have started with you, but the businesses. But I decided to start with you because we would like to hear your evaluation of the project. You choose whether you sit or you we don't hear the microphone. We don't hear the microphone in the booth. Okay, it's still not working then. Let's wait a little bit.
Секунда за техническа подготовка. Малко по програмата, веднага след този панел.
Immediately after this panel, without any break, we'll continue with the next panel, and after that we'll have a break. So this is just for your information.
Така, дали имаме...
Are we ready with the sound? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for organizing this forum. Such fora are very useful, and it's more useful when we, the authorities, speak less and hear the other stakeholders. The dual track education is a good possibility to bring back the good reputation of the vocational training, attract more students to the vocational education schools, and improve interaction and cooperation with the businesses. Also allow for students to learn more, and we are extremely grateful to the Swiss Confederation for their support. For this year, we have 177 classes, more than 3,000 students. Every year, the number of students double. Now, with the new academic year, we expect to have 149 classes with about 3,900 students. Some amendments were made to the Vocational Education and Training Act, aiming at fine-tuning the process, overcoming some of the obstacles as well. Maybe we have not been able to overcome all obstacles, but I'm also using this opportunity to thank the members of parliament for the amendments made. Over the last 2 years, this will be the third year with student admission and enrollment in the dual education. Our goal is to restructure the whole process of admission In 2017, admission to vocational classes was 48.7%. This year it will be more than 50%. Maybe the best ratio will be 60 to 40%. 60% for the vocational training classes. We have some professional areas which are more important, and we need to direct students towards them. That's why we developed this list of protected occupations where there are high expectations at the labor market. Also, we try to match the demand and supply, because we have two separate markets, the education market and the labor market, and they do not necessarily match, but we are trying to do it this way. We also will offer additional scholarships, additional funds to the VET schools will be provided teaching these specific professions. Of course, we have more tasks, that is updating all curricula. About 4,000 such curricula have been updated. There is a requirement for such updating every 4 years. There are other challenges, improving the material, the facilities. As for the dual education, the dual track education form, it is becoming very popular. More and more businesses want to get involved. Others are still not convinced for various reasons. Mainly those that are not involved are usually small-sized, or specific sectors are not covered, like agriculture, for example. Schools. Well, we are prepared to assist in this area and provide additional motivation and have them attracted to the dual education. We hope that the Domino 2 project, which was already approved for the amount of 24.5 million Bulgarian levs, will help. We expect it to be launched in the autumn of this year. Just some general remarks. Thank you. Thank you very much. I thought the best was to start with you, because we wanted to hear the viewpoint of the government. Somehow I noticed that the business is sitting on one of my sides, and the authorities on the other. But now I'm going to address the businesses. Can you please be very specific, with stories, even with details, how this cooperation happens in reality? What is your experience in the dual education area? Maybe with Mr. Gospodinov. Good afternoon. I'm grateful for this invitation to be part of today's conference and express my opinion. I am convinced that dual education is needed, because there are problems, and we know if we want to solve problems, then the first thing is to recognize the problem. I've been a business person for 27 years now, and over all these years we have encountered staffing problems, but over the last years we have experienced dramatic problems. We came to a point where the functioning of some businesses is threatened, the implementation of orders and production process is threatened. But we know that the economy is the backbone of a society. And if we do not provide it with the possibility to develop, then things will go in the wrong direction. The branch chamber of food processing and furniture production has been working to support VET schools for more than 5 years, and it's been our priority over the last 4 years. Right now, we have 12 classes of dual education in the country. For the next year, we expect to have 8 more. There are 18 VT schools that are associated members of our branch chamber. We try to be in constant contact with them in order to support them, to be a partner. Otherwise, we won't be able to achieve anything. Over the last year, we have in fact invested in a Facebook campaign targeting children and their parents and showing to them how our business needs people, needs employees, needs workers. Thus, trying to convince parents that if their children become students, they study this, then there will be jobs for them. 3 years ago, we also filmed a video material that we show through the VT schools. We do our best to attract students. We have an annual fair, and we fund the visits of children from all over the country to come over and learn more about this specific business. This year, 180 children from all over the country were invited to attend, to come and visit. So we use various forms. We understand that it will be difficult for the individual company to do it. Of course, we have companies that are able to find their partner schools, but as a branch association, we can achieve more. My personal opinion is well, today we talk about the advantages of dual education. That's good. And for the VT schools, companies will probably soon start competing for students. In Switzerland, we know and we heard from those who have been there that every branch wants and offers something in order to see students enrolled for this specific profession. They fund various labs, workshops in order to promote their trade. Now, in the presence of the minister, I would like to express my satisfaction with the work of the ministry. I only have one remark, which needs to be addressed, in my opinion. In some regional cities, I think that in March there is a meeting when all these student admission and enrollment plans are adopted. However, we do not participate in this actively, and the information that goes to the ministry is kind of the traditional, conventional information that goes there every year. And the second thing regarding regulation, you already mentioned that the best ratio probably will be 60% vocational education and 40% general education regarding the student admission. However, things change because we have not only the first but also second round of admissions and third, and we need to address this problem. The government needs to assist the businesses in finding the right professionals. I see that some of the so-called elite high schools started accepting and enrolling students with very poor marks, thus preventing students from going to vocational schools. The so-called elite high schools are ready to accept any candidate, any applicant, but you know very well that there are various people in the society. Some can study academic subjects, others cannot, and we need to support them all because we want our children to stay here in Bulgaria and work in our companies. Minister, for the second time we hear this remark. It's not a reproach, but a kind of remark. So what do you think? Well, last year we improved this mechanism. I hope that these meetings regarding student admission will not be so formal, but working. If you have any specific proposals, we are open to hear them, because that's our goal, to have this whole student admission and enrollment plan developed in partnership with the businesses. Otherwise, you're right. It's the vocational education that retains people in their towns, in the regions. We even have such statistical data. The efforts to restructure this student admission and enrollment plan are ongoing. We know that this is a problem, and it's not because the money follows the student, but because it also affects the number of teachers, and funding depends on the number of students, can depend on the number of students or the number of classes. The problem over the last years was that very often the vocational education system kind of had to admit or receive all the students who are not admitted anywhere else. But we are working on the restructuring of this mechanism, and this also addresses the student admission in the so-called elite high schools. Unfortunately, sometimes vocational schools are considered as segregated schools, and because of some prejudice, parents are just reluctant to have their children enroll in such schools. Another challenge are the facilities and equipment. 140 schools will be involved now in the new program Regions in Growth. In the previous program, we addressed energy efficiency issues, rehabilitation of buildings, and things like this. This was important, but now we are going to focus more on equipment, labs and workshops, digitalization, improvement of teaching methods. That's our plan for the next programming period, and we are open to any proposal, especially considering these meetings regarding the student admission and enrollment plans. In the next 15 years, because you have already said that there will be shortage of workers. That's what we expect. Also, this is because of the age structure of the society. The educational system cannot produce more children, but we can do our best to prevent them from leaving the country and matching the needs of the labor market. Things will look completely different in 15 years from now. Maybe migration will turn direction. Maybe there will be a more balanced age structure, but we have to do our best to minimize the problems in the next 15 years. And this is a consequence of the fact that over the last 20, 30 years, we invested more in the physical, as we say, capital, rather than the human capital. We needed to investment, multiply these investments, accumulate investments, but we somehow forgot the human factor. Now there is sharp change. I have visited some enterprises involved in the dual education. Um, uh, I Many of them were privatized 20 years ago. We carried out some research 3 years ago regarding attitude towards vocational education. Both parents and children said that vocational education would not guarantee them sufficient income and happy life, so to say. But this was 3 years ago. Now there are the sectors with the highest income growth and value added are machine building, electronics, sectors where we have to work hard to provide them with qualified workforce. Well, every sector is important, but we have to prioritize.
A lot of work needs to be done in a shared manner. I can see that you're extending your hand, wishing to partner with the stakeholders. So speaking not only of educational policies, because economic policies follow cue, they are intertwined. The Ministry of Education, from the very start of the Domino project, of economics, from the very start of the Domino projects, have been eager to join in. And in our dialogue with the businesses and with the NGOs, we've been pushing forward the implementation of this project. Dual-track education can prepare the right workforce that is needed. And this will ensure economic growth, and it attracts investors. As Minister Volchev said, we had been focused on attracting investors and somehow overlooked the qualification of staff. But thanks to the Domino projects, we have laid the foundations for the development of this manner of education, of this educational system. And I'm sure that we'll be able to retain more young people and will achieve high economic growth. Thank you. Mr. Tanasov, over to you now. Festo Manufacturing has been involved in the dual-track education process. Can you share your experience? First, let me start not only about mentioning our experience. I must say that dual-track education has been a buzzword for 10 years, but because there have been isolated efforts by companies or other stakeholders, and Domino managed to to bring together several ministries and introduce a single strategy throughout the mandate of a government, but drawing on the continuity, the heritage from three previous the heritage of the experience of three ministries. And then the question arises, we've been reporting the end of the project. A project is short-term, as successful as it may be. It's only limited in time. And I did the math. We have 50,000 graduates every year, and we have 200 to 200,000 students altogether. In the 3,000 students covered by dual-track education, it's just a drop in the sea, and we need a tsunami here. My call for you is that that in dual-track education, businesses have the leading role, whereas in VET, businesses do not matter. So if tomorrow, when Domino is no longer around, this should, its heritage, its legacy should continue to be implemented, and it's up to all of you to do it. And another thing, we have to do different specialties with working with 2 different schools, and we are planning to have a third one, and we have 20 odd job positions, but we have only for 2 or 3 of them we can accept 5 apprentices. So there should be other companies to alternate with, so that we can be flexible, because a company should be able to offer to have apprenticeship 1 year and then use the premises of another company for the other year. Small businesses will find it very hard to identify more than one specialty in which they can accommodate a group of apprentices. In many companies, this is only sometimes this scheme is used only for the incentive. So these are my 2 concerns with respect to the future steps in order to ensure continuity of the project and massive implementation of DT. So success is great because we start from scratch. But what we need to do is gain speed. So businesses want to grow fast and want these changes to be implemented fast. How can the system respond? How can we quickly implement all of this? I said that the dual-track education classes are doubling. 150 classes out of 2,500 is about 6%. Last year they were 3%, so it's a small rate indeed. Mainly large employers are involved. We can't be fully flexible because it means several specialties per class. I think we have a mechanism under the project to encourage companies to get together and to share apprentices. So most of our businesses are SMEs, so they have very limited needs of staff. So flexibility can be achieved, but only to a certain stage, to a certain degree. So in-school practices may be another option for non-dual track education schools. So the enrollment should be discussed at the school councils, and if they don't have dual track education proper, there should be more in-company practical training. 100 to 150 students can come to our company in summer for a month and a half, or once a day, 1 day a week throughout the year. So a lot of changes need to be incorporated. This discussion has not provided answers about the macro framework. We would like to hear the specificity, and then in the next panel you will see what the young people have to say. There are a lot of things to be clarified at a higher level. Mr. van den Hoek from ABV Bulgaria, what are your impressions? How long have you been in Bulgaria, first of all?
I have been in Bulgaria now 1.5 years. but it's the second time. I was in 2005 as well. So I see a lot of change. I was like in a time capsule, and I must say, from foreigner perspective, it was very positive change here over the last few years. ABB, we have a little bit the DNA in ABB for dual education, because our headquarters is in Switzerland, in Zurich. So we are very well. We know the concept very well. And in Bulgaria, ABB has 4 factories. The 5th one is under construction, and we employ around 3,000 people. So the collaboration with Domino is more than one location. We have experience since 2016, and I must say we have very positive experience. We started on a small scale with only 2 students here, 2 students there. And so this was good, and now we're starting with the entire class in Sevlievo, and we also have activities in Plovdiv. And so this experience is very good. The challenge is, of course, that there is fluctuated motivation among the students. There's some very high, some a bit lower. This is for us a bit a challenge to accommodate. So it's very important at the beginning to show very clearly what are the advantages for the students and for actually the economy as a total. Because if you look at Switzerland, they are not the lowest cost. They are not to have the lowest labor cost. They don't have oil or gas, but they have a very competitive economy. And I think a part of it is because of automation, digitalization, but also a part is linked to the dual education. It's really good what make the students very effective, quite easy to go to the business world afterwards. And this means that also the students are productive. And productive means that in the end, even as a country, you can become more competitive. So this Swiss model works, is very clear. And in Bulgaria, we also, just to give a practical example, when there are the children and students in grade 6 and 7, we already approach them and we show them the companies, just like a short visit. We also make some presentations because it's also very good to create the interest among the students for the dual education, not waiting till the ones who are there and to deal with them, but also to manage that more and more interest among the students is arisen. So we have a very good experience with that, and in fact our employees are highly motivated to work with the young people. And this is a very good point, because in Europe there is not a lot of unemployment now, but there is relatively high unemployment on the young people, and I think this is a fantastic solution to this as well.
Благодаря ви.
Thank you. Undoubtedly, the key role of the Domino project is to initiate, to trigger this debate which are currently involved in. We keep referring to the next steps. Apparently, the business has no time to spend. They need action now. The system is ready, is responsive, it is ready to work with the business, but how can you do it without making it too formal? Because this is a concern, that all these discussions may be just wishful thinking, and then everything going back to its slow flow. So how can we step up the process and make it legally regulated? We hold regular meetings with the employer meetings and with our partners, and we have formulated the best legislative amendments we can come up with, and this has been the case for 2 years now. We should improve what is going on locally, because centrally we can't be ubiquitous. We can't see everything all over the country. Now, dual track education at some point will have to to encompass non-STEM specialties, but the local needs are different. They vary, and we should, by the end of October, we should come up with an improved mechanism for interaction at the local level. I'm sure that the budget framework will be favorable to be able to increase the funds allocated for scholarships. And if Domino 2 is initiated, we will have funds to encourage a lot of activities. So this is the list of steps. If legislative amendments are required, we are ready to propose them. For the time being, we haven't identified any pressing need. We are asked often about those permissions from the Inspectorate of Labor Inspectorate. I don't know how serious, how serious a challenge this is, but whatever legal amendment is required, we will make sure that it is implemented. I'm glad that this panel has become very focused. And speaking of the regional perspective and the local one, there are several issues locally that I see as weaknesses. The so-called inspectorates of labor. They find it more difficult to embrace change. They are a bit more conservative, and they are rather slow in adjustment. My piece of advice, and it's also a matter of staffing, is to hire more young people there, to employ younger professionals. I don't know where you will be able to find them because they have the same issue of staffing. I've had meetings with those colleagues of yours and our partners who are rather tentative. They are very shy, fearful. They fear what may the view of the central government be. They have this bureaucratic sluggishness. Sometimes they come up with formalistic reasons. I'll give you an example of a gymnasium in the city of Dobrich, which was about to be dissolved, and I tried to save it. And when it came to the inspectorate, the lady in charge was said, "This will happen only after I'm gone." So I managed to convince the mayor, but the inspector said no. So these minor obstacles cause serious problems. So this school is no longer in existence, nor is the lady in place at the inspectorate, but we couldn't solve the problem. We need more younger, more energetic, more agile, more responsive people. And another recommendation on my part with respect to making it more attractive for young people to study at VET. The problems may be there, but there is also lack of understanding and lack of the wish to get the information. So we need to communicate better. We need to make all those initiatives more visible. So there's the media to be used. And for instance, you can see what happened with the cooking profession. All those TV shows, all those contests have promoted the image of this occupation so much that now they are like superstars and everybody wants to be one of them. So this is how interest can be stirred, and it is to the best interest of Bulgaria retaining its young people. And let me add, when we all started in 2016 in Sofia, in VT, the first concern was how we're going to convince the parents. It was 3 companies that we started printing leaflets, but no media helped us. Nobody helped us. When President Plevneliev came at the opening ceremony, the coverage was repeated over and over for a month. So we need to have this feeling for the good news, but it should be done in advance so that it can prepare the soil for. So you are criticizing the media, and I'm a representative of the media, so I take it personally. Well, it's not only the media. Of course, the media should be used, but not necessarily only the media. We have electronic media that are very active in such campaigns. They participated in our interactions with the employer organizations. So this campaign is already underway. It can be achieved through the schools as well. The main factor, the decision-making factor, are the parents. And we should get to them, but we should also have active attitudes instilled in the children. The government, the central budget now has allocations for interest raising, and 60% of the activities are in the STEM subjects, so that we can promote technical VETs. The minimal proportion of these activities should be carried out by external, should be assigned to external entities, so that we can have real career orientation. And I have assigned this so that children can have tours of companies, of manufacturing facilities, in order to overcome these attitudes, because when they hear the word production, they imagine a horrible, cold and noisy factory, whereas when they go and see in person the kind of technological makeup of these companies, nowadays they really want to work for such manufacturing facilities. Unfortunately, though, we have uneven development of these activities in different regions in Bulgaria, but we can see them happening. As for the regional inspectorates, we can't be sure that we can keep replacing people. We raise the salaries of the teachers, but we don't have so many people to employ in our regional inspectorates. What we can do from the ministry is to give clear instructions and targets as well. This is what we did for enrollment process. We gave them targets. They were not ultimative because they're because the specificity has to be accounted for, but they understood the responsibility they had. I'm not saying that they are conservative. It's a bureaucratic organization which has its inertia. So they may be a little bit more inert. We may be inert at the ministry too, but we should understand our responsibility. And because at such fora like this one, we have to report on our achievements. Yes, we should share the good example. They exist, but when we get into the detail of how achievements are made, and the viewers, the listeners get confused. They say there are so many problems. And now we're going to hear from the speakers themselves, from the messengers, from the envoys. They are the ambassadors of dual-track education. Slowly but surely, we are finishing off this panel. If you have a question or a comment, now is the time, because we will finish soon. Please raise a hand if you would like to take the floor.
Приемам това, че няма въпроси.
Okay, it looks like there are no questions from the audience. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This was a very good beginning to a discussion. Already some timelines were even mentioned. I hope the businesses are happy about that. I can only wish you to continue working along these lines of dialogue and cooperation. Thank you, Minister, for your participation. Thank you all. And now, without break, without an official break, because we'll have a kind of technical break for so that the equipment is replaced. I'm now going to introduce, or shortly I'm going to introduce some very pleasant young people. After this segment of our program, there will be a coffee break. So here on stage, I'd like to invite Dian Baev, Vasil Mitev, and Krasibir Voykov. They are participants from the first classes under the Domino projects. They will share with us their experience. Now, you are the most important ones. You'll be in the limelight, and I will just step to the side. It's really nice to have you here. The less formal it is, the better. I wouldn't like our discussion to look or occur as if this is a kind of exam. No, just share your experience. Share your doubts, your perceptions, your feelings all along the road. I don't know who will start first, but how did you learn about dual education? Diane? No, the microphone is not working. Now it is fine. I'm Dian Baev. I graduated the VT School Ivan Hadjimov, CNC machines. For me, dual education, judging by its very name, means something dual, a combination of work and study. And this is a very good combination. Are you working? Yes. I'm continuing kind of with the dual education. I both work and study still. I am a student at the Technical University of Plovdiv, and I work at Arsenal Kazanlak. I got my diploma in 2017 on the 21st of June, and on the 22nd of June I started working for the same company. Were you ready for this job? Yes, I was. I felt well prepared. Everything that we have studied in school as theory and the practice, it was fine. But when you go to the company, you see it how it happens in reality. You operate the device, you somehow make the dots connect. The attitude towards us as apprentices was very good. We were involved in everything. We received explanation about every single detail, every button, and I really felt great there. I got everything I needed. Well, the attitude you said was as between equals, and this is of key importance, isn't it? Yes, absolutely. Exactly. From the moment we entered the company, the factory, we felt equal to all the others. Although in the beginning I had only some general knowledge, but then I learned a lot. If I were to start my higher education now, I would have started vocational education as well, because once you graduate from a vocational school, you have a craft, you have a profession. Of course, students are different. Some study, others don't. But when you study and when you go to the company and when you do some work-based training, this makes a whole of a difference. I'm really satisfied with dual education. Yes, because you felt the results, right? Mr. Mitev or Mr. Voykov? I'm Vasil Mikov. I graduated from the Henry Ford Vocational School. I joined the dual education program in the 11th grade. For me, this is a very good thing that happened to me and in my life, because we went to companies. We visited all companies. We learned many new things that would have been difficult for us to learn at school. The people from the companies behaved in very good faith. We were taught about all novelties regarding automobiles, new computer programs. The attitude was very friendly, as if we were their peers, as if we were their colleagues already regularly employed there. So in the company, you can learn many things. In school, you just learn part of it, while in the real working environment, you get the whole picture. Mr. Voykov? I learned about the advantages of the dual education system, and in my opinion, the possibility, the chance to see how things work at the workplace is great. This is an advantage. Until we got accustomed to the job, we were given easier assignments, but gradually they started assigning us tasks and assignments equal to everyone else. We were expected to bear responsibility in the same way. Well, nobody mentioned or just missed that Mr. Mitev works for Scania, Bulgaria. Starting the 1st of June this year, Mr. Voykov holds the first, ranks first as the, we are not hearing well, I'm sorry. Is there any difference between an intern and an apprenticeship? Do businesses understand the difference between the two terms? I don't think there is a difference. Maybe you didn't hear in the morning that the business, in fact, doesn't really make any difference. I don't know whether it is important or not, but that's the response. Are there still any peers of yours who are skeptical, who do not understand the benefits of dual education? I was one of them. I was one of them, by the way. And how did you change? Well, this was long time ago in 2016. Well, things were different then because there were talks about dual education, but even teachers were unable to answer because I was asked to sign a contract, but nobody could explain to me what was this about. So I disagreed at that point. Thank you, really. Thank you for your sincerity. Are you satisfied with your job? What are the opportunities for development? Because this also matters. Yes, generally talking, I am satisfied. There are opportunities for further development once I graduate from the university, and I hope that things will develop in the best possible direction. What about you? You are still in the beginning of the road. Well, very similar with what was already said. For the company where I started work, last year we had 10 days of summer practical training. They were satisfied, and with me, and we discussed things. And I worked there in the summer. Then in the autumn we started according to our program twice per week, 2 days per week. Once I graduated from school, we had one more conversation, and I was offered an employment contract. They were satisfied with me, and I was satisfied with them. Was it like this for you? Just the term dual and no understanding about it? Well, yes, it was like this in the beginning, but for this 1 year now, as part of the dual education system, I feel very satisfied. I'm ready to take up any assignment together with the team I work with. You were part of the first part of this panel where representatives of the authorities and the businesses discussed the issues. How did it look to you? How did you feel? Well, this needs to be continued, and more students must be attracted and study at vocational schools because this is the opportunity for them to find a job. Maybe we need more people to talk about it because that's how change happens. This is my main conclusion. Yes, that is so. Were you interested to hear the opinion of the people who were part of the first panel or the previous panel? Is there any need to explain dual education differently so that everybody knows about it? I think that this is a very good form of education. Knowledge is acquired, a profession is acquired, and finally you find your place on the labor market. And now I'm going to ask the audience, do you have any comments, maybe questions, something that you would like to point out? Please use a microphone, a microphone. My question to the three young people, what convinced you or who convinced you to become part of the dual education system? Well, I was in the end of the 10th grade when the school was involved, and in fact we were encouraged by the school. At that stage, however, I felt very uneasy, uncomfortable with the whole idea because we started under one system and then we suddenly changed, and that's why I a little bit opposed it. I was already studying there when dual education was introduced. Have you ever persuaded anyone else to enroll in dual education? Yes, 7. At least 7. I learned about dual education when I was in the 10th grade, in the second term. I was satisfied with what I heard, and I wanted to start to be enrolled because I was aware that we'll learn a lot. If each of us speaks with 7 more people and tells these 7 people about dual education, well, we'll have many more people convinced in the importance of dual education. Now we'll have a brief coffee break, 15 to 20 minutes, and we resume work at 3 o'clock. Dear guests, for the 3rd time, I am saying welcome to you, and I'm happy to be with you. Now we are approaching the final panel of today's conference. I'm going now to invite the participants. Mr. Ben Hutter, Director of IDM Vocational School in Thun, Switzerland. Mr. Hutter. Mr. Gabriel Bolliger, a vocational trainer at AZM Vocational Training Center, Langenthal, Switzerland. Mr. Hans-Peter Tanner, Chief Trainer in the Domino Project, and Mr. Lechezar Afrikanov, National Dual Track Education Expert in the Domino Project. Gentlemen, feel comfortable on stage. You may be sitting or you may stand up. Just feel at home. I'm going to pass the floor immediately to Mr. Hutter, one of the most prominent vocational schools in Switzerland, which is a good model of the success of the all dual-track education system and success there. So what is the secret of the Swiss success?
We have a lot of delegations at our school, and it's always the same questions. What is the secret of the system? I'm going to do a short presentation, and maybe there are some answers in it. So this is our school, and this short presentation has 3 parts, 3 very simple parts. First, an introduction, then a main part, and the end. So all access to education is language, and that's why I would like to start with the ABCs. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to Bulgaria. In the past years, we had a lot of collaboration and cooperation with different delegations from Bulgaria about the dual track system, about our school, and I hope we have improved some development for this project. I would like to speak about education, about exchange, about enterprises, and I will not speak about fundings. But the question to ask me, what is the secret of this vocational education and training? I often have this question, and when I ask my students what is the secret, then they Google and they have 100 million answers, and maybe it is all about the competencies. The school which I come from is IDM, and we like to join corporations with different countries. This is very important for our school. What are the key success factors? I will speak about the learners and about marketability, because this is very important after the education, that they can enter to the labor market. New ways of learning, maybe we can speak about this as well, and at the end, maybe there are some open questions. Permeability is also very important. I will not speak about quality management systems, but about quality and the role of the cantons, and about the Swiss vocational education and training system. We are a school in Thun, a small city located close to Bern, to the capital, as an example. I hope what you will hear will be a little bit useful for you, for your VET system here in Bulgaria, which I heard is growing up very successful. And don't do this, because at the end we have 3 very complicated letters in our alphabet. Maybe it's easier to do it with the Cyrillian alphabet, but in our alphabet, yeah. So I will tell you this more than one time. Exchange is very important for us to learn from each other, and for the youth it's useful. And we have a lot of visits in Switzerland, and I hope to see you again at our school. So okay, I will talk a little bit, but I have promised that I'd speak 10 minutes, so maybe now we have 12. This is the content of the short presentation, something about us, our activities, objectives of our school, and the strengths. This is the school, the main building in Thun. This is our logo, and it stands for industry, Dienstleistung, services, and Modegestaltung, fashion design, which is an important sector at our school. But it also stands for Ich in German, me, du, you, and miteinander, which means together. So work together with all our partners. This is one of the most important goals in our school. And IDM, of course, also stands for idea management. Innovation is also an important part. This is the logo with colors with our curricula we offer. Bridge year courses, then VET programs, then Federal Vocational Baccalaureate, and when you want to continue at our school, we have also higher education. So this is the system. I will not explain you the system, but what you see here in color are our offers. We have 2-year apprenticeships, 3-year apprenticeship, and 4-year apprenticeships. And we talked before, we heard on the panel that the parents are very important. And what we can say in Switzerland to the parents, you have all the ways open. It doesn't matter where you continue, where you start with your education. You can go in every direction you want. You can start a 2-year apprenticeship and go to the university or what else you want. So permeability is very important. What is also important is that we work together with the enterprises. They make the contract. Without the contract, we have no students. So we cannot build classes only improved by the school. We need contracts with enterprises, with companies. And we work together on 3 learning places. The companies, here you see an example, Studer, 800 employees and 80 apprentices. 10% are apprentices. Then our school and industry courses, where they learn specific practical competencies. This is an important slide for me because it says all how we work. In the middle you see the learners, this circle in the middle, and around the learners we have all the partners which are involved, who are involved in the learning process. So we have our teachers, we have the enterprises, we have the industry courses, we have the parents, and we have the schools where they come from and where they go to. In this city, Thun, with 40,000 inhabitants, there are 3,500 learners in all programs in our school. And this is our staff, about 250 teachers who are working in vocational education and training. Here we are located, all buildings in the Bernese Oberland. It's very nice there. Here you see the main building located at the lake, and behind you see the Swiss mountains, the Alps. Something about our activities, I show you only a few professions we offer at this school, 29 altogether. For example, polymechanics, mechanical engineering, site and apparatus engineering, technical professions, metal worker, design engineer, florist, baker, pastry chef. And you see what they bake, typical Swiss. Auto mechanics, hairdresser, gardener, logistics specialists, draftsmen, and they work in architecture, plumbers, painters, agricultural machinery mechanics, and forest rangers, and at least clothing designer. Yeah, these are a few professions we offer. Now, a few words about our objectives. For us, it's very important, how I said before, to work together with our partners. And I show you one example, which we have improved, a new project. For every profession, you need some competencies. This is an example for mathematic competencies for the profession of polymechanic. And like you see, it's very high. That's clear, it's a technical profession. So what means that? We have together with the compulsory school, have all the competencies you learn in the compulsory school. We have a list. It's a very, very long list. And here you see in two colors. In gray, you see what they don't have to know, and in green, you see what they have to know. But it's written in German, it's very complicated to understand it. You know maybe, so these competencies, how they are written. And the students, the apprentices, they don't understand it. So we have done for 125 professions in our canton, for every competence, behind them, you can click on them, and then you have exercises, and if you want, you have solutions. You can click on different competencies, then you have a lot of exercises, and you can test in the compulsory school if they are able to enter this profession. It's on the website, you see there in blue, www.erzkompetenzraster, and there you can see all these exercises. The same for language and mathematics skills. So we work together with universities of applied sciences, with higher education, and we have a lot of exchange with different countries. I show you a few pictures. Here, for example, the Minister for Welfare and Youth from Albania, Mr. Blendi Klossi was there, Chinese ambassador in Switzerland, Geng Wenbing. This was not so easy, this visit. He had a lot of very complicated questions. Or South Korea, or Kazakhstan. And this is me with the traditional trade. Or from Bulgaria, a lot of delegations have been at our school, and some of them I have seen today in the audience. So I would like to end my presentation with 2 or 3 strengths of our system. First of all, I said it before, employability and marketability after the education is very important. We have 98% who enter directly in the labor market after or in a higher education. So it's very high after our education. Then what is also very important is that we stay actual, that we stay innovative. So for example, now we do something about girls in technical professions, tech ladies, we have there a project, or in integration, language skills, development. This is also very important. Then I said that before, in the Swiss system you have no dead ends. You always have a solution after your education. And this is very important, a very important message for the parents, that the system functions like this. Then you can say, it doesn't matter where they start, they have always open. And at the end, you can learn, for example, hairstylist, coiffeur, and become a biologist. And the last remark from my side, I believe in exchange. I believe in meeting with other countries, with learn from each other. This is very good and very successful for our development. I never had a delegation at our school from who I couldn't learn something. We always learn from you and you learn from us, and I think this is good for Europe. This is very important for development in our different countries. And a last remark, these were 86 slides, and it was almost a film. And maybe there are some of you, they remember what in all the times at the end of a film, we had something and it doesn't exist anymore, and it looked like this. Thank you very much for your attention.
Благодарим на господин.
Thank you. Thank you. This was really impressive and memorable, Mr. Hutter. Mr. Gabriel Bolliger has been one of the authors and now a trainer of AZW in Switzerland. He will explain what the role of these centers is now. We will look forward to it, Mr. Bolliger.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am very happy to be here today, was invited, and I'm one of the representatives of one of the, thing here. As you know, dual system is living from two parts, dual, and I represent the private sector, so that's our logo. Welcome to the Vocational Training Center. We have a training center which is not a school, it's from the private sector, and it covers the private part of the vocational training. As you see, vocational training, the roof public is the school, that's from the public founded college and so on, 1 or 2 days a week. 3 or 4 days a week they are in the factory. Now, there are companies whatsoever, bigger or smaller, they decide, well, for us would be really a big problem to have staff which really only look for the apprentices or have a significant or a certain quality, can provide a certain quality. So that AZW is actually coming in that private sector and does exactly what they need for. So we provide the whole basic training, which we do usually in the first 2 years, to afterwards give those apprentices back to the companies. I will show you the system after, and they are fully educated on the practical level to work within the process. So they don't need special educated people there to show them the basics. Right. AZW, at a glance, we have 3 locations in Switzerland. Put that down here, be more free. About 67 employees, like trainers like me. 450 apprentices have a contract with us. So we recruit them, we choose them, we check what abilities they have, like he said, in technical abilities, language skills, and so on. And and then we make a contract with them. Like we're from the private sector, make a contract, and later on we look for companies where we can rent them out for the for the rest of their apprenticeship. Of course, we have a lot of key members. This is not like you just make it, you need really strong partners in the industries. And I don't know, you might know some of those companies, Burkhardt Compressions, MAN is very famous. Sulzer was a big brand in Switzerland, split it up in many little branches. Anyway, they said, hey guys, we don't have to do recruiting all for our own. We make it together. We build that AZW, and we make the whole education of the apprentices together, and then when they are ready, after 1 or 2 years, we take them back to our companies. That's a bit something of the structure, maybe not so important, but you see we have like a structure and 3 places where we educate them. Important, although, is that on the board are really the important people. You see there are CEOs, there are chairmen, division heads. There are really the people who say what's going on in the company. And that's, I think, also the people you have to convince in your country to take part in that VET, in that dual vocational education training system. Because if those people understand what that will bring for your country, then they will do it in their companies, and that will spread around, and that will healthily grow. Just to show you. That's about all the professions we are educating in that center. I leave that at the moment, so you can translate, maybe. Okay. About 12 occupations we teach, not all on all the locations. I just pick one, design technician. That's the guy who constructs something new, some mechanic stuff, but he constructed, he learned how to draw, how to use the computer, how to make 3D models, even how to make finite elements, try to like put weight on a side, will it break or not? All those things you can do in computer these days, quite fascinating. Also, that guy will have to go to the mechanic workshop because he has to know if the guy will understand the drawings he make. Anyway, that's those 4 years, and you see we are covering the first 2 years of that design technician. So he come to us in that private production section where we take care of his whole basic education. That red line marks like a test, kind of an assessment he has to do after 2 years. When he passes, he can further on go in different directions, specializations of his profession, which is like design technician. That's the canton of Zurich. You know, Switzerland is small, although we managed to have 26 districts. So that's one of those districts. And you see all the firms which are working with us together only on the location of Winterthur. Some of you have been in Zurich, Winterthur, maybe some groups have been there. And that's what happens after that assessment. After second year, we will choose what apprentices will fit best to the needs of those companies. And then they can apply, they can go pass by there, work there for a couple of days. The company can say, yes, I like him. They can say, I like it there or not. And we will find solutions. And in the end, they are really in the industry. Something about the cost. Of course, that's Swiss francs, and education in Switzerland is even more cheaper, more expensive. So, but anyway, I want to show those numbers. When we have contracts with them and we educate them for 2 years, it's like a risk. It's our risk. Nobody is paying us for that. But after, we convince companies to pay us back the money in the following 2 years back on the first 2 years. So that's quite a cost. That's like 60,000 euros for a fully educated apprentice in Switzerland. It's a price. but they are willing to pay for because they see what's coming out. That's a table what they earn, so they get some money during that 4 years of education. It's in the beginning not much. They have a few weeks of holidays as well, like all the workers have. And what is costing like their income as well. Might be interesting, might be not. However, we also have quite success. Motivation is everywhere a problem. I think you have to motivate youngsters all over the planet to do some work, to inspire them. But if you really do, and some of them bring outstanding qualities with them, we cannot say they learn that from us all, but maybe we give a bit of inspiration to their way, and they really manage to do great stuff. Like there is that world skills you might have heard, or we have that Swiss skills. Some of our apprentices have been there, could go to Brazil, to Abu Dhabi in 2016. This summer, one guy will go to Kazan in Russia. That's brilliant, and that will change them for their whole life and their whole environment as well. They will see, wow, what they did, and maybe they have one less beer an evening because they learn hard, they study, all those things, but in the end of the day, I think they can shine as well. And like those few youngsters, they were here earlier on, I think they are very inspiring, and they are the youngsters, and the youngster is the future, and when you invest in them, you invest in your future, and that's just beautiful, I think. Yeah, carry on like that. Yeah, we also have a production, and we make a bit of money. So it really, we have to cover our own costs. We don't get money from the government, let's say. Everything we do, we have to get back with those those contracts we have with the companies. And last year we could start building a huge building next to the old building in Winterthur, with new infrastructure, with new workplaces, new machines, and 6 million Swiss francs, and not a penny was coming from a bank. Although we have a few in Switzerland, that's all money we made over those 10, 11 years. So that's also something, we reinvest. It's not that we pay out the money to the people, but we reinvest. Could be a way to the future. Okay, I think my time is over, and thank you very much. And yeah.
Благодарим ви много, господин Болегер. Господин Ханс Петър Танер е най-дълго и най-дълбоко въвлечен така, като швейцарски експерт в изпълнението на проекта Домино в въвеждането на дуалното образование в България. Сега очакваме няколко думи.
Now, Mr. Tanner, the Swiss expert who has been the longest and the most deeply involved in the Domino project implementation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, from my side. After these 2 PR spots from Switzerland, we're coming back to Bulgaria and to the Domino project. I was asked to talk about my personal perception of the Domino project, and I will quickly do that. It is a very specific and individual view of this past 5 years, because it's 5.5 years since I started in the Domino project. It's November 13. I think, I don't know, there is only Docho was involved. Docho Mikhailov, it started really on a low level personally, but I knew very little about the country. It was simply not on my map before. Stereotypes in mind, I was curious about the reality in Bulgaria. I was then surprised that the big shock did not happen. I was not kidnapped by the mafia, and no other bad things happened. On the contrary, Sofia presented itself as a nice city with a lot of charming places. although there are others, but this was at this time not on my agenda. In the meantime, I learned a lot about the country, including history, culture, politics, education system, even some words in Bulgarian, like lekanosh or something like that. And I also learned a lot about Bulgarian friendship, which is one of the most important points. One of the characteristics of a project is that it has to have a clearly defined beginning and end. Now the end came, and we are all a bit nostalgic, hoping, of course, that this does not mean the termination of the Domino Initiative itself. As we heard, we think that it will continue. Although a continuation would happen without me, I'm now retired and looking for other horizons. The start of the project in 2013 was characterized by a clear target specification given by the Swiss Agency of Cooperation and Development, which demanded an intervention in the vocational education system on state level, not low-scaled. Therefore, 3 ministries were involved: education, labor, and economy from the very beginning, as well as the presidency of the country itself. Also strongly committed were the following partners and institutions, among others, many others, of course. That was the Embassy of Switzerland, at this time represented by Mrs. Regina Escher. The Bulgarian Swiss Chamber of Commerce was already mentioned many times today. That was especially mentioned Vasil Radoinovsky. Dr. Mikhailov, I already mentioned as consultant to the SCO and very experienced project expert. There was Ivan Krustev, at this time Deputy Minister of Education and Science. And not to forget the person who is not here today, but was very important to get this cooperation started, Dr. Meglena Plukchieva, former Bulgarian ambassador in Bern. After 2 feasibility missions and many meetings with representatives of associations, schools, companies, and visits of institutions working in the VET field in different parts of Bulgaria, a project document called PRODOC was worked out. This document considered the specialities of the Bulgarian education system and laid the basis for the future development of the project. It was approved by the Bulgarian government and the Swiss SDC only end of 2014, and start of the first domino classes was set for summer 2015. Therefore, a rather busy time came towards us. We started immediately with the most important issue, the development of curricula for the first 2 professions, machine building and milk technologist. This meant new territory for everybody because it involved a paradigm shift, the strong involvement of companies. This was and still is one of Domino's biggest challenges. Meanwhile, the PMU was installed. Petya, Polina, and Nikolai started to advance Domino project on all levels. The PMU was responsible for many tasks which are in Switzerland disseminated to different partners, such as cantonal and federal government and associations. The latter are in Switzerland very powerful and active, which means a difference to Bulgaria in some branches. To make it short, the contribution of the Swiss experts was then to guide workshops in curriculum development, to deliver teacher and instructor trainings, and to guide and instruct the group of dual-track experts who worked and still work as multiplicators of the philosophy and the key elements taken in the Bulgarian version of the dual-track VET. I think Lachazar will tell more about that. Compared with other countries, I had the opportunity to have an insight in several other systems of VET, such as India, South Africa, and others. When I compare these countries with Bulgaria, I see some difference. In Bulgaria was from the beginning a strong will to really change some important things on a high level. Therefore, the ministries provided a strong support, an awareness of the necessity to cooperate. The Swiss expertise was heard and implemented as far as possible, and very competent and supportive staff at all levels, especially on the part of the ministries and the PMU. And, of course, not to forget all the teachers and instructors in the schools and in the companies who were involved in the project. Wrapped up, I would say that the process of knowledge transfer from Switzerland to Bulgaria reached a very high level in the sense of adaptation of the expertise to the local needs and the step-by-step transfer of the responsibility to the Bulgarian actors. The role of the Swiss experts changed from the direct implementation to be supervisors of the process. Then there are structural differences. For example, in India, there is no way to rely on an existing VET system. Anyone who can strives to go to the university. Well, we heard that it's not so much different here, but everything else does not really count. But in Bulgaria, the apprenticeship with a strong implementation of the state was already well known, although for various reasons with a bad image and temporarily out of order. Although, of course, also here people want to send their sons and daughters to the highest possible education, I believe that the apprenticeship has a chance in Bulgaria, especially when it is broadly realized that well-trained professionals don't find themselves in a dead end and have good prospects for the future. Another fact which is good for the Domino project is that many academic students do not find a job after graduation. So, meanwhile, maybe people understand that and see that there is another possibility of vocational training and career planning. Essential is the support of the three partners. First, the economy, the private sector. I believe that this is the key point of the whole system. The companies must realize that VET is not only a factor of costs, which it is in the beginning, but much more an essential and indispensable pillar of growth and profit. Well-trained and educated staff is the guarantee for quality and effectiveness, and this nobody can get for free. Investment and commitment is necessary. When we heard the statements of the industry today, that sounded good, but it is only part of the industry, unfortunately. Second, the state, the public sector. The state is required to. He has to create and monitor the necessary standards and structures. This means regulation and harmonization of training, setting of minimum requirements, including general education, maintenance of schools, education and training of teachers, conducting examinations, etc. All this is already very much the case in Bulgaria. If we ignore that the system currently depends still too much on the state. The industrial partner is in general too weak. And based on the efforts of the two formerly mentioned partners, the society, especially the parents and their children, they should appreciate the apprenticeship as a good, solid base of life, providing the opportunity of developing a person to achieve the best individual level of a working life. Domino is still a tender little plant, just about to grow up a bit. If, however, over the next few years, it won't be possible to consolidate at all levels what was achieved so far and continue to strengthen the growth, the plant will die again. If it works to strengthen vocational education by more and more companies entering a dual system, and therefore more young people can enjoy good training, this approach could significantly improve the quality of life for many people. I hope that this will happen. Thank you.
Благодарим ви.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. And last but not least, Mr. Lachazar Afrikanov, you have been trained under the Swiss program. You are already training trainers, teachers, and instructors. Can you please tell us more about this? Well, I really feel very emotional because Hans-Peter was the person who trained me 4 years ago. And now when I listen to so many Swiss experts, I remember these first steps when we very enthusiastically started this journey called the Domino Project. In the beginning, I thought this was just one more project, but this is such an all-encompassing project that you become enthusiastic, and it's not a job anymore, but a real cause. Yes, we were trained, and the most valuable thing was that we know how curricula is developed, how professions are profiled, how dialogue with the businesses and VT schools happens. The steps are clear, the methodology is clear, and I would like to ask the other DTEs to please stand up because we walked on this path together, and this is a holiday, a celebration for all of us. Please stand up so everybody can see you. There are also some DTs absent, but we have the people in place. We have a system in place on how to interact, and I do feel satisfied. But of course, there must be something slightly negative. Or maybe I'm not going to talk about negative things. Hans Peter put it very nicely, calling this a tender, a little plant that needs to be watered. And in order to do this is not to change anything. Something I learned from our Swiss colleagues. I revolted against this because I'm very much open to innovations. But I know that the strength of the Swiss model is this: stick to the standard, stick to the methodology, and try to cover as many sectors as possible. The statistics is already clear. We have trained teachers and instructors. Teacher training can be strengthened and create even more regular meetings between teachers, VT teachers, and companies. We met to develop curricula, and in this period there was intensive exchange of information between teachers and business representatives. Teachers learned a lot about what's going on in the companies, and if the businesses put more efforts in presenting to teachers innovations in the respective sectors, the trends for future development, and if this becomes part of education as early as the 8th grade, everything will be fine. Thank you very much. Well, this was fast and very clear and very precise. That's how the last panel of today's conference finishes. Thank you very much. We are very grateful to everyone, to our panelists. Later, there will be an award ceremony, and we expect everyone registered for dinner to turn up there. And now, in the end of the conference, in order to sum up everything, I'll give the word to Mr. Roland Piton.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to wrap up. Of course, it will be based on my perception of today. I will focus on 3 topics plus a conclusion. First, about achievement, about factors of success, about now and future, and some philosophical conclusions. Achievement, what has been said today. First, we managed to have a fair number of students going to dual vocational training in a number of schools, in a number of professions across the country. So there's a model existing, there are some competences, so we have it. Second, which was not to say today a lot, but I think we should not underestimate it, we have a supportive legislation for dual vocational training, what was put in place last year. I think it's very conditions to work. The third, I would say, we have a quite very efficient platform of dialogue between all the actors active in this dual vocational training, from the business, the school, the ministries, everybody is involved, and it's very important for the future development. And fourth, we have a strong partnership in place. It means among the school, the business, the ministries, the public authorities, they are aware about what it is, and they work together. So we have this community of working for dual vocational training. For me, that's the 4, if you have to, let's say, to wrap up in 4 elements, that's the 4. Now, about the factor of success. First, it was said, we had a clear agenda. We knew exactly what we wanted, and that was key at the beginning. Second, it was said also, we have all these actors, business, authorities, schools, parents, with trust. They work together in a spirit of dialogue and in a positive attitude. These things is very important and was mentioned in a full panel as a key factor for success. The third factor, of course, is the motor. We had very strong engine in the process. The engines were this PMU, of course, the Chamber of Commerce, the Embassy, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Economy, and all the other actors from school business. But from making the daily job, we had strong motors, I would say, the PMU and the Chamber of Commerce. And fourth, we had the opportunity to benefit from the experience in Switzerland. Swiss institutions that opened their door, they welcome a lot of visitors. We had also from the Department of Education bringing a lot of expertise in the process, and I think it was also a very important factor of success. That would be the 4 factors of success. If I have just wrap up means going to the essential. Now, what is going now? It's not a closing even for nothing. It's because we are closing. It has to be clear. It has to be said. Also, Switzerland is very proud of what has been achieved within this project thanks to your involvement. We are very proud. But we have to say that we are going to withdraw. It means we are no more being in the driving seat. So it is the Bulgarian institution to take over. That it has to be clearly said. So, what does it mean? We hope, and we heard today, there is a strong commitment to progress. It means to have more profession, more schools, more students, to have a broader coverage in the country. There is a strong commitment. Also, maybe there is a commitment to target the regions which are less developed in terms of business, which is also going to be a challenge, how to introduce dual vocational training in regions where the business is not so developed. So, what we need for the future is also this strong motor, because, to repeat again, the PMU, the embassy, we withdraw, the PMU is going to be released at the end of November, so somebody has to play the role of the motor, making the daily job Although the competences are here, the willingness is here, but the daily job has to be done by somebody. That's it. In order to achieve that, I will say that all stakeholders, especially the business has to keep the pressure. That's to keep, it's normal, you know. Somebody has to put the pressure, and here I think what we lived the last years in Bulgaria, it's a business putting a lot of pressure, that we have more and more dual vocational training if they need it, if they want it. And of course, to maintain this dialogue of partnership, it's very important. This dialogue will really very important to progress. Now, what I will pledge also is to also work on quality. I think it's very important for the credibility of the system to have quality of education at school and at the job. It's very important to put this priority. And at the same time, it was said today, I thought it was an important aspect. It's also not only to focus on technical knowledge, but the social competences. This, what is said also discipline, but I would call it the social competences are very also important for the students to adapt in the future career. So that was the point. Now, I would like to thank you, everybody of you, because you were the actor of the success. I think we have to acknowledge it. Switzerland brought some financial resource, brought a lot of trust in the system. We let the Bulgarian side to find a solution, to develop the model with some expertise, but let's say the solution was yours, and you managed. I think the impact of this project goes much beyond the project. It's about our future of young people. It means these young people, they have better prospect for their future if they find their way, have a good job. It manages also, I would say, to increase the socioeconomic status of some population that we know have more difficulties to access to academic careers, some families, some even segment of the population to access higher level, higher status of socioeconomic status. So for me, because of that, I would like to thank you, everybody, for your support, for your engagement, and I would say you can be proud of the success of this program. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 4 o'clock, so just as our Swiss peers will do, we complete just in time. Thank you for your attention. I'll see many of you later during the award ceremony. Thank you once again.